Around 2021, Tesla began seriously exploring the possibility of establishing a manufacturing plant in India. The world's biggest electric vehicle company saw a rare combination of scale and opportunity.
Future of India. I think India has more promise than any large country in the world.
The world's most populous country, a vast consumer market, relatively low labor costs, and growing demand for electric vehicles. The prospect generated enormous excitement. Tesla was supposed to become another proof point that India was emerging as a global manufacturing destination. Yet after years of negotiations, Tesla walked away. In May 2026, reports confirmed that the company had abandoned its plans to manufacture in India. This is not simply a story about one company changing its plans. Several multinationals have become disillusioned with the Indian market. In 2014, the French retail giant Carrefour shut its Indian wholesale business and exited the country. In 2017, General Motors ended domestic manufacturing and stopped selling Chevrolet vehicles in India. In 2020, Harley-Davidson effectively exited the Indian market. In 2021, Ford announced the closure of its manufacturing plants in India after accumulating losses exceeding $2 billion. Each company left for its own reasons, but together they point to a deeper question. Why does a country with such enormous economic potential struggle to retain so many global businesses? The answer is not taxes. It is not labor costs. It is not even infrastructure. At its core, it is a story about trust. It is a story about what happens when businesses operate in a low-trust society. And India, despite all its economic potential, remains a profoundly low-trust society. For businesses, that lack of trust manifests itself in three fundamental risks. The first is that businesses cannot trust the state to protect life, property, and commercial activity from activists, vigilantes, mobs, and politically connected troublemakers. The second is that the state itself often becomes the predator. For many politicians, bureaucrats, and local power brokers, a successful business is not a source of jobs, innovation, and wealth creation for the nation. It is a source of rents, favors, donations, influence, and opportunities for extraction. A cash cow to be milked whenever an election approaches. A new bungalow is being built, or a political patron needs to be kept happy. The third is cronyism. In a low-trust society, success is not always determined by who builds the best product, serves customers most efficiently, or allocates capital most intelligently. It is often influenced by who enjoys the closest access to political power. Businesses therefore compete not only in the marketplace, but also in the corridors of government, where relationships matter more than competence. The result is an environment in which growth can become a liability. The bigger a business becomes, the more it attracts politicians eyeing a share of its success. To understand how this works, let's imagine a large shopping mall opening in an Indian city. The project becomes successful almost immediately. Thousands of customers visit every day. Major retail brands lease space inside the complex, and the owner finally begins to see returns on years of investment and risk. That success attracts the attention of a local politician, known for inserting himself into successful businesses. Through intermediaries, he lets the owner know that he wants a share of the venture. The arrangement is straightforward. Make him a partner, either directly or through a proxy, and business will remain smooth. Refuse, and problems may start appearing very quickly. The owner refuses. Soon afterward, running the mall becomes noticeably harder. Roadworks appear on key access routes. Power cuts in the area become unusually frequent. Garbage collection around the premises suddenly becomes irregular. Parking permissions get held up. Fire safety inspections become more frequent. If the owner still refuses to capitulate, the non-state actors emerge from the shadow. One of the mall's tenants is an international footwear brand called Sivo. Suddenly, a group of saffron-clad activists appears outside the store, claiming that the name sounds too similar to god Shiva and is therefore offensive to Hindu sentiments when displayed on shoes. Television cameras arrive, slogans are shouted, demonstrations are organized, the store is forced to shut for days. Other tenants begin wondering whether they might be next. On paper, each action can be justified. In practice, the message is obvious: cooperate or keep paying the price. The names in the mall story are fictional. The pattern is not. In 2025, a KFC outlet in Ghaziabad found itself at the center of controversy. During the Hindu holy month of Sawan, members of a right-wing group entered the outlet and pressured it to stop serving non-vegetarian food. The restaurant had to shift to a vegetarian-only menu for days. KFC has operated in India since 1999 and today has more than 1,000 outlets across the country. This particular outlet had been running in Ghaziabad since 2023. It possessed the necessary licenses and was selling a perfectly legal product. India has millions of staunch vegetarians, but for decades there existed a simple social contract. You eat what you want, and I eat what I want, as long as neither is forced upon the other. Then one morning, a small group of bullies decided that their food preferences should apply to the entire city. This is the kind of unpredictability that investors fear when operating in a low-trust society. A similar incident occurred in Dehradun in May 2026. A retail outlet of Metro Shoes, a $2.97 billion company established in 1955, was stormed by a mob of Bajrang Dal activists. The goons wrote "Jihadi" on the name tags of Muslim managers working there.
ये जिहादी थे, जिहादी हैं और जिहादी रहेंगे.
The reason? A disgruntled employee, dismissed from the store on allegations of theft, had approached the kangaroo court of Vigilantes. What should have remained a routine workplace dispute was transformed into a public spectacle by activists with no legal authority over the matter. These cases reveal a simple reality. In too many situations, private businesses cannot be certain that the state will protect them from intimidation by groups that have no legal authority over them. Things become even more interesting when the business is bigger than a mall, a restaurant, or a cinema hall. A major real estate developer may discover that a request has arrived to voluntarily invest 150 crore rupees in the government's electoral bond scheme, or risk losing out on a 2,000 crore rupees national highway project. A Bangalore-based multinational IT company may be expected to help finance helicopter travel, campaign logistics, publicity events, or other election season expenses for influential politicians. The company may be competing to become the Indian implementation partner for a major Google project, and discover that refusing to oblige the powerful has a way of quietly closing doors that would otherwise have remained open. A pharmaceutical company may suddenly find itself being encouraged to fund a nationwide research program into the benefits of cow urine, lest the renewal of its quality testing licenses become less straightforward than expected. The founder of an educational chain, who also happens to be a member of parliament, may be asked to support a controversial university reform bill pushed by the ruling party, or face a wave of inspections and audits across his institutions. These scenarios are illustrative. The real world is often stranger. Consider the curious case of Holcim, the Swiss building materials giant. Since 2005, it had spent years building a major presence in India through Ambuja Cements and ACC, two of the country's most prominent cement brands. By the early 2000s, however, the Competition Commission of India had launched a sweeping investigation into major cement manufacturers, including Holcim's Indian subsidiaries, over allegations of cartelization and price fixing. Then, in 2022, Holcim made a dramatic decision. Rather than doubling down on one of the world's fastest-growing construction markets, it sold its entire Indian cement business for $10.5 billion and exited the country. The buyer was the Adani Group. The acquisition transformed Adani from a conglomerate better known for ports, energy, and logistics into India's second-largest cement manufacturer overnight. Perhaps it was simply a commercial transaction between a willing buyer and a willing seller. But for investors observing India from the outside, the sequence is difficult to ignore. A foreign multinational under regulatory scrutiny exits the market, and one of the country's most politically influential business groups emerges as the primary beneficiary. Then there is the Vodafone story. The British telecom giant entered India in 2007 with an $11 billion acquisition, only to become entangled in one of the longest tax disputes in Indian corporate history. While it was battling retrospective changes in tax laws, Reliance Jio, owned by the Adani family, another of India's most influential business dynasties, entered the market in 2016 with free SIM cards, free voice calls, and months of free data, triggering a brutal telecom price war.
Free calls है 3 months के लिए इसलिए that's why.
In many Western markets, a newcomer offering services on such terms would likely have attracted intense scrutiny from competition regulators and rival operators. That is not how events unfolded in India. By 2017, Vodafone, then India's second-largest telecom operator, was forced into a merger with Idea, the country's third-largest player. Within 2 years, Reliance, a conglomerate better known for oil refineries and petrochemicals, had become India's largest telecom operator. Whether these events were connected or entirely coincidental is for the audience to decide. What is not debatable is that a multinational company entered India with great optimism.
Every day I want to fly, stay by my side.
And spent much of the next decade fighting tax authorities, legal battles, and a brutal market disruption before effectively losing its independence. Taken together, these cases point to the same underlying problem: the uncertainty that comes with operating in a low-trust society. In high-trust societies, disputes are handled through HR departments, courts, regulators, and legal institutions. In low-trust societies, a business's security depends as much on political goodwill as on legal compliance. The result is a business environment where success depends not only on satisfying customers, but also on satisfying a long list of people who have no legitimate stake in the business. And even if a company successfully navigates all of that, it still faces another challenge: policy unpredictability. Consider India's ethanol blending program. In 2014, petrol in India contained roughly 1 to 2% ethanol. By 2025, the country had achieved 20% ethanol blending years ahead of schedule, while simultaneously encouraging the development of flex fuel vehicles capable of running on blends as high as 85% ethanol. Imagine being a Japanese, Korean, European, or American automobile manufacturer that has spent billions of dollars and a decade developing engines, supply chains, and product roadmaps for the Indian market, only to discover that the fuel ecosystem is evolving far more rapidly than anticipated. This is the challenge of long-term investment in a low-trust environment, where major assumptions can change within a single business cycle. Indian businesses have seen this repeatedly. In 2016, high-denomination 500 rupees and 1,000 rupees notes were withdrawn from circulation overnight. In 2020, the government banned TikTok, removing one of the country's most popular social media platforms overnight. Millions of creators, agencies, advertisers, and businesses that had built audiences and revenue streams on the platform were disrupted.
This is wrong. This is unacceptable. This is filthy. This is disgusting.
The lesson is simple. Long-term investments require long-term predictability. A country does not become prosperous because it has a large population, cheap labor, or a rapidly growing economy. It becomes prosperous when people trust that the rules will remain consistent, contracts will be honored, investments will be protected, and success will not attract unnecessary attention from those seeking a share of it. Trust is not a social luxury. It is economic infrastructure. Capital is remarkably sensitive to uncertainty. It flows towards environments where trust is abundant and retreats from environments where trust is scarce. Tesla's decision may ultimately prove insignificant. One company can always be replaced by another. The more important question is whether India can build the kind of society in which the next Tesla never has a reason to hesitate in the first place. And that question is larger than India. It confronts every low-trust society that hopes to attract investment, create prosperity, and compete in the global economy. Thank you for watching Whispering People. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the forces shaping our societies, economies, and institutions, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think India's biggest challenge is infrastructure and regulation? Or is it the deeper problem of trust itself? Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep looking beneath the surface.